I went to a couple thrift stores today, as well as a comic book shop and a library, looking for used books and old comics. And so this is what I brought home with me today. And I thought I'd show some of the books and also show the comics. Now we'll start off with comic books, and these were at a local comic shop, Big Ben's Comics, and they were $1 each. Now this is an issue of Superman Family I didn't have. I had to bring my list with me. I always have to bring my list because sometimes I don't know offhand if I have an issue or not. This is issue number 181, published in 1977, I believe. Yeah, 1977. It has a new Lois Lane story and then a reprint inside here of an old Jimmy Olsen story. An imaginary story, I guess, where he marries Supergirl. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I passed it. Jimmy Olsen marries Supergirl, it says. That's a reprint. There's the letters page. And it talks about that the next issue is going to be a dollar-size book. But anyways, this one, you can't really see it now, but it had like a grease pencil with a big 6 written across it. So I thought, well, maybe I can smudge it out, but even if I can't, it was worth $1 to me. So I smudged it out a little bit. It's kind of a little smeary on there, but you can't really see it too bad. It was all across Lois's face and stuff. So you can see a little bit probably of where it says, I now pronounce you, where that pronounced the W and the C, it was a little smeary. But anyways, so there's that. Now this next comic was in rough condition, issue number 7 of the Secret Society of Supervillains. But it's one of those oddball 70s titles that has the supervillains, starring the supervillains, sort of like Marvel's supervillain team-up series. And DC also had a Joker series at the time. So you can see it's all creased, but I thought for $1 I'll get it. It has this is also from 1977. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention with that Superman Family, that character in the background, kind of wonder if he was modeled on Frank Thorne, who used to dress like that wizard type character at conventions at the time. It was around 1977 when both of these comics came out. But you can see Funky Flashman there, who was of course modeled after Stan Lee. There's a little bit in this issue where he takes off his toupee. This was drawn by Rich Buckler. And Funky Flashman says to Lex Luthor that, bald is beautiful. Anyways. Now here's a interesting comic. Here, let me take it out of the bag. I didn't even have to look at my list to know that I didn't have this one. It's that prestige format that like Dark Knight was in, a square-bound format, published by Innovation, who I always thought of as sort of a sort of by B-list independent company. But this one actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's comparable production values and stuff with Marvel, at that time. A cover painting by John Bolton, painted by Colleen Doran, and it's an adaptation of an Anne Rice story. So it's a thick, painted, sort of like a epic comics style thing. So it looks interesting. It's sort of a historical, paranormal, romance type of book. Very interesting. The original cover price was $6.95 back in 1991 when this came out. But it has sort of a gothic look to it. Alright, next comic we have here is an issue of What The, that is parodying Marvel Comics Presents. And both of these issues are, I believe, edited by Terry Cavanaugh. Marvel Comics Presents was edited by Terry Cavanaugh. It was the weekly or bi-weekly anthology Marvel was publishing at the time. And this issue of What The is also edited by Terry Cavanaugh. So the whole issue is, sort of, it's almost like an issue of Marvel Comics Presents, except it's, parodying it. And, it has that same content style, just like Marvel Comics Presents. Don McGregor writes one of the stories here. Peter David writes another story. And so it has the, there's the Wolverine feature, there's the Black Panther feature, and so on. Anyways, there's Captain Ultra. This cover is by John Byrne. I wasn't a fan of What The when it came out at the time, but it's looks a lot better now than did then. There's an issue of Richie Rich from I think 1976. I love that very simple, elegant cover. Let's see if we can get that better in there. It looked like it was in nice condition for $1. I think it has a little bend in the cover. And there's the issue. The art kind of looks like Ernie Colan to me. Let's see. Oops. Well, it's hard to see the way this is. This camera has this. I have the camera propped up on this. This is from 1976. Richie Rich number 145. All right, and one more comic, and then we'll get to the books. This is The Fly number 9 from 1984. Now, I already had this issue. In fact, I'll show you. Here's my original copy, a newsstand copy. I bought it at 7-Eleven back in 1984 when I was 13. But my copy has this crease in it. At the time, I guess I wasn't taking as good a care of the books as I should have. And also, I wasn't too happy with this issue of The Fly. Even though I liked, the comic, I was kind of ticked off that, aside from this Jaguar backup story, which Ditko inked, he was taking off the main Fly feature. So anyways, this one, when I saw it in there, it was like, oh, it doesn't have a crease. It's all, in fact, it looks, let me just open this up real quick. Perfect condition. Nice, as new. So I thought, well, I'll get it for $1. And this is the direct sale copy, so it has that little credit for Ayers and Ditko on the thing. It's all pristine. All right, so now we'll get to the paperback books. Got a copy of Sense and Sensibility with a new afterword by Mary Ballo, or Bala. I don't know how her last name is pronounced. I thought maybe I had Sense and Sensibility already, but it looks like I didn't. The Man in the Iron Mask. This is by a publisher called Cherish, which I'm not familiar with. But Alexander Dumas. I've read about 50 pages years ago of Three Musketeers, but I never got past that. But it was interesting. I just got distracted, and so when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, The Man in the Iron Mask." I don't have that, so I'll get that. Those were 50 cents each, and then I got this Harlequin Romance from January 1972, I believe. Printed in Canada. And 2 Iris Johansen books. These are actually reprints from the early 90s of 2 of her 1980s love-swept romances. Lady Reckless by Leslie Lafoy. I've never heard of her before, but this is a Bantam fanfare book. Historical romance. Linda Lell Miller, Emma and the Outlaw. This is a later edition, I believe, of a early 90s book. This is a Harlequin collection of novellas. I got it for the Anne Stewart story. I'm a fan of her work. So it has 3 original novellas from the early 90s, I believe. A romantic suspense from the 1980s by Elaine Rocco Chase, who wrote for, I don't know if it was for Candlelight Ecstasy or not. Maybe it was Silhouette. One of those things she had written for. I got 3 James Michener books. I've read 2 of his books before and liked them. One of them, my favorite, is The Source. But, so these are late 80s, early 90s. And this book, My Lost Mexico, is actually a book about his novel Mexico. So it's of a nonfiction. It was actually published by Tor, which is interesting. Now we got a whole bunch of vintage books. Pocket books number 17. So it's up there in the corner from 1942, I believe. The Chinese Orange Mystery by Ellery Queen. And this is pocketbook number 214. These are all wartime books. You know, it's help win the war. And the contents of this would never be like in a science fiction anthology today. You have stories by Stephen Vincent Benet, H.G. Wells. You know, there's some that are... But this is like for 1943, I think. So... But these old pocketbooks and other publishers back then, they had a lot of interesting, the way they, you know, it's like very elegant, these red end papers. And all the printing information is like crazy. And even at the back, they'll have like descriptions of, you know, this is like every pocketbook's, you know, a list of pocketbooks, and there's like book number 1 was Lost Horizon. But great stuff. The Canary Murder Case. Now all these I got for 50 cents each at a antique store. A Philo Vance, famous Philo Vance story. A Ellery Queen, Calamity Town. Again, these are all from the 1940s. And then we have some post-war books, I believe. These are also pocket books. Book number 576 and book number 577. Let me show that better in there. There's Gertrude the kangaroo in the corner there, with the red edges. And we got 2 more pocket books here. 647 and 771. The Brave Bulls. I'm interested in the bullfighting thing. That seems interesting. A Perma book. Perma books, pocket books later purchased them, I believe. By Ellerston McLean. A World War II story. Now we have a later pocket books. This is Minute Mysteries by Austin Ripley. Some really old Dell books from the 1940s. Book number 106 and 258. Dell Mysteries. And they're famous for having their map backs on the back. I'll set those there. There's 2 more Dell books, 273 and 277. A Dell Mystery and a Dell Romance. Doesn't look like much of a romance that you would expect today. By Ursula Parrott. And there's the little map back on the back. Well, here, let's do the Alfred Hitchcocks together there. There's 2 Alfred Hitchcock books published by Dell. 12 stories they wouldn't let me do on TV. That's from the late 50s. There's a Mary Roberts Reinhardt. I love these vintagey Dell books. There's the back cover. The Long Knife. And finally, these 2 books that I got at the library. This Rough Magic by Mary Stewart and The Winding Stair, sort of a gothic, by Jane Aiken Hodge. Both published by Fawcett Books in like the 1960s or so. And that's it. That's the books that I bought today at the store. This Rough Magic is a classic. I had it in hardcover, but it'll be nice to have it in the paperback edition. And that's it for the books that I bought today. Quite a haul. Thanks for watching.